All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hello, everybody. I had to load in the recorded audience. It took a few extra minutes. Great to have everybody here. There is a breaking news of the day. Sorry about this. The second button of my shirt is open, and
take it all off. Woohoo!
Sexy for a lot of people, but for me,
Bring it.
I think it's not a good look for an older man, probably. So I'm gonna button it up. Hey, it is great to be here.
What?
And it is. I've got Albert on board.
Albert,
Kim
thank you.
on
Kim,
board
how are
as
you?
always. And there is breaking news out of this regime, even as they pursue a policy on immigration and on border enforcement that is unprecedented in its lack of humanity and its full display of brutality. One of the faces of it all is stepping away from government. And yeah, I know, it's pretty big news. Even as she was fried on Capitol Hill. And I'll play you a little bit of that only because it is so delicious to watch her get owned and to have some her department is doing called out. You know, I mean, there is it's chapter and verse, of course. They are corrupt. They are inept. Department of Homeland Security, so well funded, as I've told you, with twice the budget of the FBI. It's crazy. But the breaking news is that Kristi Noem is stepping down as head of the Department of Homeland Security. Is she going back to spend more time shooting family pets, or exactly what is she's going to go back to spend more time with her family, deciding what pets, what puppies to shoot in the gravel pit, what goats to kill? Kristi Noem fits right into this administration. Over her head, a yap monster. She gets on to the Senate hearings, the Oversight Committee, and she just knows how to just keep yapping to try to use up the time, filibuster, and she did. Meantime, she's authorizing millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars to be directed to family friends and campaign friends. She's corrupt, straight up corrupt. They all are. But she was getting to be such an embarrassment.
I think
those hearings, I think, laid it bare. What's that, Kim?
The flying sex palace that, that was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
She is not going back to the farm, by the way. She's being reassigned to become the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
that is a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, wow.
So she is the...
This is so ridiculous.
Yes, she's being promoted, is what you're telling me.
Shield of the Americas. Yes, this isn't a stepping down. This is a stepping up, Mark.
Wow, that's really good.
There's never been anything like this.
It's great. Here's the way that media picked up the story just minutes ago.
Crackdown, and that includes her response to the deadly shooting by federal agents of two American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Just moments ago, the president saying he's naming Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Let's get straight to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary, what do we know?
Well, Kira, the president just announcing this in a social media post that Markwayne Mullin is going to become the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security as of the end of this month. And the president, who, as we know, had grown increasingly frustrated with Secretary Noem this following several days of her testimony up on the Hill, the president posting the current secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. It also comes, of course, as you
With a plane?
She received a lot of backlash after her response to the killings of 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. She, of course, was very quick to come out and label them domestic terrorists. She falsely said that Preddy was brandishing a gun. It created quite a controversy for the administration. Then, of course, the president moved in Tom Homeland, his border czar, to take over the situation in Minneapolis. But Kira, the big picture here, it is important to remember that this is now the first major firing that we have seen in the president's second term. To fire Kristi Noem, move her away from being the DHS secretary to this new post at the end of this month. Unlike in his first term, where there was quite a bit of turnover in the cabinet, she is now the first cabinet secretary to be let go by President.
Thank you, Mary Bruce. I am, again, though, noting, please don't use the word firing. She's been reassigned to a very exciting assignment, and I'm sure she'll be able to take her special government assistant, Corey Lewandowski, with her so that the two can flock together in their new government positions and continue to grift off the American dime. That is the latest on Kristi Noem. I did want to share with you one. Where's the Nagoose stuff? I don't see it here. Albert, do you have it? I thought Nagoose was brilliant yesterday. I didn't see it. I don't see it in our list of videos. We went through it before.
We have it. It's there.
You have it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to grab it. Give me one moment.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why it wasn't listed in this. I don't understand. It's the one thing I said I wanted to run.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I said I wanted to run it, and then I don't see it. So,
It's right there.
okay, so he'll get it. I just wanted you to see it because it's representative of the incoming blast that she was taking on Capitol. Look, when you are, as it should be in the video section, Albert, if you're looking in the video page, if you're looking for evidence of how manifestly incompetent and corrupt she is, and then, of course, the cruelty that she doubles down on, you need look no farther than the news of the day. But when it all is compiled and she faces down with it, it looks like this. I guess this is a cut down on it. So here we go.
Of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
According to
Madam
law,
Secretary, the
address
is registered to a political operative. Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And there are serious laws implicated, conflict of interest laws, federal procurement laws, that I believe
followed. All done correctly.
All done correctly.
14 billion impressions from that marketing campaign.
Sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary,
overwhelmingly effective.
We all understand the argument that you've made. That somehow this ad campaign on Fox News of you at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're
Why do you
using
think that
millions
they
of
did
dollars of
self-deport? Had they
taxpayer
not known?
money in this way. It is fraud, and ultimately, I think there's going to be accountability.
I think that he's right, of course. And the one thing I would say, and again, this is just part of what was going on at the Department of Homeland Security, but it is worth noting, this is that media campaign that essentially went out in no-bid contracts to those who she had relationships with. And so that's why that becomes so relevant. And by the way, Derek says in caps, we don't love caps in the chat. I guess Kim can yellow card you for that. But you're right about this. Damn, fired. How about prison? And what Nagus was saying is worth noting, which is there is real illegality here. Now, I don't know that this regime will ever leave power. I don't know that the American system will ever reset, and I really don't know that. But I do know that if it does, and people actually are held to account, and I'll have later in the show what is a move on the part of the Justice Department to protect a lot of the illegal actions of Department of Justice agents, that is to say, lawyers and others under the umbrella of the Department of Justice, from any kind of repercussions after the regime is out of power, or even legal actions against them while they're in power. But on to Kristi Noem, that which she has done, the illegalities are things that she should have to answer for in a court of law. She should be prosecuted. So you're right, Derek, and others who are saying, hey, great that you've gotten rid of her, but the manifest illegality of what she's done should be held to account in some way, and so that has to happen. But, you know, who watches the watchers, as is, there's some Latin phrase, which is that, and I think that very much applies to this administration. Oh my God, Markwayne Mullin to replace Noem. He has no prize. He's no prize either. That's right. He's also dumb as a fence post, says Lighthearted. I don't know. I don't know about that, but I do know that he's on board, and I think he's on board to cover whatever tracks need to be covered. I'll just put it that way.
He's the guy. He's the guy in recent days that said he could imagine the smell of war while he was talking about Israel bombing Iran, and he has never served on the in the military, so he was taken to task for you don't even know what the smell of war is.
Well, he has to imagine it because he never has experienced it. Right, exactly. I can play you more with her, but I think you get the idea. We've played you a lot along the way, and I love the way News just took her down. I will, and as I say, her administration of the Department of Homeland Security has been an abomination, and the entire department is way overblown, way overfunded. It reminds me of like a mini Pentagon where they just keep throwing more money on the fire, and you and I just keep paying for more BS, and once in a while the BS floats to the surface and you see it. You see it in some no-bid contract that's awarded to a friend of hers. Literally didn't have a company until it was powered up 8 days before it received these federal funds. It's outrageous. It's a grift in a sea of grifters. She is just one more. And so rotate her out and rotate the next guy in. We'll see what happens. Dan says, yes, Sweet 106 Bakery, double vanilla, vegan, arrived yesterday. Here it is, like super delicious.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I thank you for changing the subject. I'll get to the war in a moment. I've also got Tony Box, the FBI has been a place of great controversy, and Tony is someone with terrific experience at the FBI and can really hip us to what's going on there. But because you mentioned Sweet 106 Bakery, I'll mention that I'm a huge fan of this. The cupcake, layered cupcake is what it's called. And it comes to you in these canisters, all right, in these containers. And it is 3.5 cupcakes layered, and it's not just layered. It's a wonderfully concocted confection, perfectly executed. Sweet106bakery.com, and they've won Cupcake Wars twice, okay? It's the only war, was it Richard Delamater who said it yesterday? It's the only war I want to see is the Cupcake War. I really don't want to see any other wars. So with all this war talk, thank you, Cupcake Wars. And these guys want it twice. Sweet 106 Bakery is where you should, I think, sample, enjoy, and fall in love. Sweet is spelled S-U-I-T-E, like a suite of rooms in case you're listening on Spotify or on iHeartRadio. Sweet106bakery.com. Use our discount code MARKT. You'll get 15% off. Yes, they have baking mixes, the layered cupcakes I'm in love with, and everything else. Sample, enjoy, order for friends. These are small batches, so they make them to order for you. So it's not like it's going to come to you the next day or whatever, because this stuff has to come in. They process it. They then will bake for you. And it will arrive and it will change your life. Sweet 106 Bakery are partners, and I think they've only been on the show like a month, and we'll enjoy talking to her. I think she comes on the show again next week just to ask her about what's happening. So
can we never let them go? Never.
Oh my God, they are great. They are great. So sweet106bakery.com. Mark to your checkout, and it's 15% off.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here. Smash the like button. I know it's a weird thing, but in the world of YouTube, it helps you to you
with
smash
your
it.
iron rod,
or to leave a comment, and that way, that engagement, I guess, gives us a certain. I don't know. Albert has explained it to me once, and I really still don't really understand it. But I do want to update. The Mullins is the guy who kept saying President Hegseth in an interview a couple of days ago. Yeah, he kept confusing. Hegseth, he kept saying President Hegseth. I saw that too, that clip. Maybe we'll run it later if we have time. I did want to give you an idea of what's happening in Iran before I get to laying bare what's happening at the FBI. Without question, the Iran situation is one, in my judgment, that Donald Trump thought he could one and done with, like mic drop it like he did Venezuela, blow into Venezuela, turn things upside down, decapitate the leadership, and then, jump back to the U.S., be at Mar-a-Lago in time for cocktails. And the reality is Iran is a massive country with massive armament, a massive military, and they won't go quietly. It's also a country made up of a texture of religion and factions that are all competing in the chaos of the fall, potentially, of the Iranian government. There's also an infrastructure that has to be handled, and I'll talk about that next hour. Very little word is spoken of that. Like, what do you do? What's the after-action plan? As usual, as I say with these guys, they're all boom and no plan. They don't think through much of anything. They love the flex. But when it comes to actually administering a situation, they're really not there. Here's the latest on Iran.
Iran launched a new wave of attacks against Israel as Israel and the U.S. hammered Iran for a 6th straight day. An Iranian government agency says the death toll in Iran has reached at least 1,200 people. Meanwhile, Israel says one of its fighter jets shot down an Iranian fighter jet over Tehran. Officials say it marks the first time an F-35 has ever shot down an aircraft in combat. And now Iran's foreign minister is warning that the U.S. will come to regret the, quote, precedent set after a submarine sank an Iranian warship with a torpedo. Ian Pannell is tracking the latest developments from Tel Aviv.
Yeah, Rachel, we're seeing clear signs of the U.S. ramping up its war against Iran, launching a torpedo against an Iranian naval vessel off the coast of Sri Lanka. The ship with 180 people on board sinking. Authorities saying only just over 30 people were rescued there. The U.S. making it clear that it's escalating its strikes, but Iran showing its continued capability to retaliate. And I think there are concerns here that a conflict that originally began with relatively narrow aims that was going to last days is now expanding exponentially and looks set to continue for weeks.
And that's just the overview, and it's instructive, especially the last part of what Pannell was saying, which is this is going to be a protracted situation, and it'll be interesting to see and perhaps heartbreaking to see the results of that. The quotes from Donald Trump and his reasons for going in are interesting. First, I'll share this piece of video with you just from yesterday in which he invents essentially a bit of intelligence suggesting that the Iranians were 2 weeks away from a full-blown nuclear armament. Go ahead.
We were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. So I think I was right about that. We attacked first. And if we didn't, it could have been, look, we're really decimating them. They're being decimated. And if we didn't, and by the way, we have massive amounts of ammunition. We were having negotiations.
Yeah, so the idea somehow, first of all, that these are skilled negotiators is patently ridiculous. It's Witkoff and Kushner. I've talked to you about them before. Neither one with any kind of deep diplomatic experience whatsoever. They are real estate moguls. They are, Witkoff is a golfing buddy of Trump. He ends up being at the center of negotiations with Ukraine and also in the Middle East. It's just the oddest look. And the reality of what Trump is saying is that, he's just kind of improvising this. And this is sort of the crew that is improvising the whole thing. He did brag, and this just is yesterday, about, quote, the exciting times the U.S. is facing. Quote, well, thank you very much, he says. These are exciting times. And I think you probably want to speak about war rather than this, but this is very important. This is very important. This was at a roundtable with tech executives. I think this is just happening, it's just yesterday. Trump said that on a scale of 1 to 10, on a success scale, he would rate this escalating war with Iran about a 15. And his quote, and we're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. The majority of voters disapprove of how Trump has handled Iran. This is no surprise. New NBC News poll, mostly polarized along party lines, small but noticeable slice of Republicans now unhappy with the decision to launch a war in the Middle East. There's also a significant split between younger and older voters. 54% of voters disapproving of Trump's handling of Iran, compared to 41% who approve and 5% who say they either don't have an opinion or aren't sure. So this is just a snapshot of how people feel, but these polls sometimes can be instructive. I think the bigger news, of course, is the news of the vote in Congress to limit the president's power. The Senate voting down the resolution that would have prevented the continuation of the war with Iran, the war powers vote, as it was called, broke along party lines. Almost all Democrats in support of limiting the president's powers, and most Republicans opposed. 47-53 was the vote. The attempt to get Donald Trump to receive Congress's permission for continuing the war in Iran. It broke along party lines. The resolution was introduced by Tim Kaine. John Fetterman of Pennsylvania was the sole Democrat to vote against limiting the president's powers. Rand Paul of Kentucky was the only member of the Republican majority to support the resolution limiting the president's powers. It would have forced an end to the air and naval campaign against Iran and require the president to go to Congress before re-entering the war. Congress is not a place where the president has to stop to do much of anything these days. So I'll have more on the war and more on that part of it. And I'll have Pete Hegseth. I've got Hegseth video. Hegseth serves up these muscular frat boy basketball coach at halftime speeches, as you know, and I will share some of that as we continue. But right now I have a guest I want to get to, so I will get to him. Yeah.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here, everyone. I want to talk to an FBI special agent. Spent nearly a decade as an FBI agent, also spent time as an assistant U.S. attorney at the DOJ and in the U.S. Army as a JAG officer. He's the real thing. How about it for Tony Box, everyone? Nice to meet you, Tony Box. Hello.
Hey, Mark. Happy to be here.
I want to ask you first about maybe the Justice Department overall. Give me some thoughts. There are all kinds of questions swirling, but there's some efforts on the part. This is the newest from Pam Bondi to kind of shield those who are involved at the Justice Department from any kind of blowback from those who feel that there have been illegal actions taken against them. This is sort of a different kind of move for the Department of Justice, isn't it?
It is. It's unprecedented. It appears to be just another attempt to avoid accountability. And so they want these prosecutors and these employees to not be held accountable. I don't think it's going to work. Everyone sees it for what it is.
And what would it take to get it to actually be the law of the land, that you can't, in effect, sue or take any kind of legal action against those who are acting on behalf of the DOJ? Would that have to be an act of Congress, or could that be done by executive action? How would that happen?
No, if it were done by executive action, they would immediately be sued and they would lose. So it would have to be an act of Congress. And even then, there's federalism, right? The states, to the extent that states want to take action against these individuals, states are allowed to do so. And so even an act of Congress is questionable. And I don't really don't understand what Pam Bondi is doing other than trying to shield her people who have behaved illegally. But it's surely not going to work.
And to the FBI, where you spent so much time as a special agent, Kash Patel is swept up in all of this misconduct. I don't even know where to begin. The most recent, maybe I'll just work back chronologically, is associated with his misuse of FBI funds, of travel, of special agents dedicated to a security detail around his girlfriend, many of whom, or some of whom, were part of a special unit that is designed to identify and go after sleeper cells or sleeper cell equivalents, the domestic terrorists who might be connected to Iran. So these are all things that are super relevant to what's going on in the world right now, but they also speak to sort of the casualness and the performative nature of Kash Patel's service.
Yeah, look, Kash Patel is an unserious FBI director who does not care about maintaining the high standards of the FBI and maintaining a workforce who has tremendous morale and loves the work that they do to keep the American people safe. And that can be demonstrated by his firing of employees for no apparent reason other than political retribution, which, by the way, many of those employees will get their jobs back because you can't fire FBI agents for political retribution. But you mentioned Iran. Yeah, many of those employees worked on Iran matters right before they're fired. They need these employees now. Who are they going to go to with the institutional knowledge now that we've bombed Iran and we're in war with Iran, and all of the significant, or most of the significant knowledge is now out the door because you fired them for political reasons? It's unprecedented, and it's unbelievable, and it's wrong, and somebody needs to be held accountable at some point for it.
The analysis of the FBI director that appears to be floating to the surface, I should say, suggests that he often lashes out after his own bad press by firing experienced agents and staffers. It's almost as though it's a reaction to his own predicament. In key moments, it's suggested here in reporting, when he has faced public glare, Patel has chosen to fire sets of FBI agents and staff. The result has often been the regeneration of headlines. And in other words, the more you flex that firing muscle, the more you become embroiled in the controversy around your administration of the FBI.
Yeah, it's a lack of maturity. It's a lack of seriousness. It's a lack of leadership. And it's unbelievable that you would fire people who you need, who are dedicated public servants, just because you're getting bad press. Maybe what you should do is not do things that get you bad press, not go to the Olympics and slam beers and misuse government resources. When I was an FBI agent, one of the most significant, serious things that you could do is misuse resources. We talked about it all the time. They drilled it in as you are not to abuse your position as an FBI agent. You are not to use your government government car for personal reasons. And we didn't, because we knew we would be in a world of hurt if we did. But this guy doesn't care. And you mentioned earlier his, paying for his security detail for his girlfriend. I was on the SWAT team for many years, Special Weapons and Tactics Unit. No SWAT agent wants to be deployed to protect his girlfriend. It's unprecedented. It's costing the American taxpayer a ton of money, and it should stop.
Yeah, this is a really good point you're making, because I often think of those who are involved in government service and service to the public, and the FBI as an institution certainly has a troubled history on one level. It also has a distinguished history on another level, and so many do serve there proudly. And all of a sudden, if you're a distinguished agent and you're told, hey, I want you to go protect the head's music star girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, and this 27-year-old who is touring, and again, this is a full-time SWAT team that has 4 agents and 2 cars associated with it that are now assigned to that. That has to be demoralizing on some level.
It truly is. It is not the highest and the best use of those agents' knowledge and skills. The training that is done on a SWAT team, it's unbelievable. And the reason why is because you need a very high level of competence and abilities to be a SWAT agent and to embark upon those missions. And to be deployed to protect someone's girlfriend is not appropriate. And those agents are demoralized, and many of them are quitting, either retiring or resigning, and many others have been fired for uncertain reasons or for political reasons. And so they're hollowed out. The SWAT team is hollowed out. The agency is hollowed out, and it's a shell of an agency compared to what the FBI I used to work in.
I know so many in Washington grew up there, so I know a lot of people at Justice. I know a lot of people in other arms of government, and they are pushing away, as you say. And one of the things that has been frustrating is the way in which the FBI has, with this wonderful investigative arm that they have, has stonewalled other agencies, and now you don't even trust investigations because it seems as though they're reverse engineering the results. They've decided some people have to be domestic terrorists. I'm talking about the shootings and killings in Minnesota, on the streets of Minnesota, and they are going to somehow reverse engineer that to get to that conclusion. And Minnesota's investigations agency is saying that the U.S. Attorney's Office has prevented it from taking part in the investigation. So these are the local people, if you will, the state people who are associated with this investigation. And standing in the way is the FBI. The investigation will now be led solely by the FBI and will no longer produce case materials for the Minnesota Investigative Agency. It's an abomination, I think.
Yeah. I actually investigated police shootings, and the inappropriateness cannot be overstated. The relationship that the FBI has with its local partners to investigate these shootings is necessary. It is the hallmark of a good investigation. And when you stonewall these agents, it's clear that you're doing that in order to protect your own agents or federal law enforcement officers, who, by the way, don't need to be protected in this situation. If they killed someone, they should be investigated and held accountable if it's found that they did something wrong. And if they found that if nothing was done wrong, they should not be worried about it. But we need our local partners to help with this investigation. They also have jurisdiction in many cases. It's called joint. There's jurisdiction for a reason, and they seem to not understand that.
Yeah, you make such a good point, Tony, that the interest and the agency that the state officials have on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota is significant. And you can't just strong-arm them the way they are. They're just, freezing them out. Tim Walz, who's the governor, angry at the Trump administration, of course, says it feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome from this investigation. And I
can understand why he feels that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're all saying it'll be very difficult without cooperation from the federal government to get this investigation done well. There's one public official, the public safety commissioner says it, the governor says it, the police chief says it. It's the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Fry, said the same thing. And
Yeah,
they're
the attorney
dismayed
general
that
has done a phenomenal job, and you mentioned the chief of police has done a phenomenal job. They are dedicated public servants who have been working very hard on the safety aspect of Minnesota and improving relationships with the community. And this does nothing but hurt morale of the people, the officers in Minnesota, as well as the relationships. How long is it going to take before they trust law enforcement again?
And yet the feds feel, I think, tremendous power. There's a muscularity about the federal presence and the ability to deploy a federal presence in many places. We saw it initially, I want to say, a few months ago. We saw it in a big way. Now there's a temporary pullback, but as you know, there's been an influx of agents and ICE agents, and the budget for hiring ICE agents is just off the charts. So I'm pessimistic on this simply because I think there are going to be more and more of these deployments, and clearly the government's position is one of cloaking a lot of these agents in their protection.
There are going to be more and more deployments, but there are also going to be more and more shootings because these agents, many of them are poorly trained and believe that they're unaccountable. And if you're poorly trained and unaccountable, you're going to act what we used to say as a cowboy. They're going to go out and they're going to shoot people and beat people up for taking their picture and for exercising their constitutional rights when they have no business doing that. And before this happened, it was so incredibly hard to get a person to not be afraid of prosecution. That's what keeps law enforcement in line. No law enforcement officer wants to be put in jail. And so, besides being a good person and wanting to do the right job, you are afraid of accountability. So you do the right thing. And that has gone away.
Tony, I'm so grateful for your input, and sadly, I feel as though those like you who have actual experience, you're someone who we desperately need to weigh in on this stuff because you've been there. It feels as though there is, and you said it at the beginning of this conversation when you said he's not a serious FBI director, he's an unserious guy, I think you said. There feels as though there's an amateurism about everything now in Washington, and the heads of these agencies, from Pete Hegseth, who was the Fox News host on the weekend, to Kristi Noem, who was the pretty face, who's now getting bumped, and she and her special government official, Corey Lewandowski, will now find another place in government, to Kash Patel, who, again, I'd say couldn't find the men's room at the FBI before he was made director. There's an amateurism that is really quite dangerous.
Yeah, these are serious jobs that require incredibly competent and experienced people, and we have not been getting that. We have not had accomplished, serious, professional people at the head of these agencies in the last couple of years. And I don't understand why, because there are hundreds of thousands of men and women who report to these individuals who want to do a good job, but they demand respect, and they want leaders who are going to do the right thing. And when these leaders don't do the right thing, they lose these people in one way or another. And it makes us all less safe, every single last one of us, to include the people in Iran. I mean, now that these agents have been fired who specialize in Iran, who's going to do that work? And it's going to make that mission so much harder. And as well as white collar and criminal matters are all being put on the shelves for other priorities. Who's going to protect the victims of these crimes? It's going to take a long time to build these institutions back up.
Hear, hear. Now I have a question that's lighter in nature, and that is related to the TV shows that depict the FBI and JAG. A JAG I'd never heard of. As a kid, I didn't know what a JAG officer. You probably did, but like I didn't. And then there's a show. It's a hit show called JAG, and in fact, I played cards with the guy who's like this super handsome guy. I forget what the hell his name is. The guy who's the lead of the show. Anyway, but he's some actor. Very nice guy in my interactions with him. But I'm more curious about you as a JAG officer, also as an FBI agent, watching these things depicted in media and on television. Did you? There they are. Yeah, that's the guy. The guy I played cards with is that guy in front. And look, I mean, everybody looks so serious and handsome. What? Speak to me about your reaction to that TV show, Judge Advocate General JAG, the hit TV show that was out there.
Well, there's a certain embellishment, exaggeration with many of the scenes. And so that's, people understand that it's drama and it's TV, and you are every day as a JAG is not going to be as exciting, and you're not going to be litigating and slamming your fist on the table the way that many of these shows depict. But I will tell you, there are some exciting moments. When I was in Iraq, we had real trials, real litigation with a defense attorney and a prosecutor and a soldier who's being tried. And so many of them think many things are embellished, but sometimes, those kind of things actually happen.
Yeah. David James Elliott, they're telling me, is the actor. Yeah, I forgot his name. And did you find, this is my last question, I'm always curious, like when media makes something a big deal, whether like all of a sudden your profile, like, all of a sudden, you're a JAG? Like, again, you go from no one knowing what it is to everyone, associating you with the hit TV show.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. No one knew what a JAG was. But now they do. So it's good to give us some notoriety for the people who want that and understanding as to what we do, and also as a recruitment tool. Now, I don't know about, the current the current Department of Defense is different. But for many people, they want to be a JAG in the military for a variety of reasons, and this helps with recruitment. Another thing is folks get almost immediate trial experience where you don't get that in real life or at a law firm. And so it has its pluses when the administration is serious about the rule of law.
All right. Now, my super last question is a more serious one, although I thought you answered that with some serious takes on the fact that it can apply in so many ways and be relevant to, hiring, et cetera. I want to ask you about the move on the part of Pete Hegseth to go back after Senator Mark Kelly for, again, advising troops not to follow illegal orders. It seemed as though that was done, and now Hegseth is doubling back and appealing a federal court ruling that was blocking him from punishing Mark Kelly. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's all these people do is they double down and they triple down and they lose and then they lose again, and they will lose this fight because he had a right to say what he said, and he simply stated the law. You people, you soldiers, you military professionals do not have to follow illegal orders, and actually you must not follow illegal orders. Now, how can he be prosecuted or disciplined for that? He cannot be. And so it's just performative. I'm sure that he knows that Mark Kelly is not going to be punished. And another thing is Mark Kelly has a speech and debate clause, right to say what he wants to say. He's a sitting U.S. senator, and that adds to the difficulty of any sort of punishment or action against them. It's just not going to happen.
Tony, you're awesome. Thank you for spending time with us today. Really enjoyed meeting you. I hope you'll come back again. Love your takes. Yeah, and I'll look forward to the next time, my friend.
Same here. All right, thank you very much.
All right, Tony Box, everybody. Good stuff.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
He's great. Good stuff. Good stuff, Albert. I don't know where you came across and made that happen, but he's my new favorite former FBI agent. Well, I want to get back to a couple of things that are. What do I have in hour two? I've got
David Katz coming up.
David Katz, the distinguished former federal prosecutor, probably one of the best legal analysts in the English-speaking world. So I will. I'll get to David Katz in hour two. I do want to, before I get any farther, and I do have some. I have some Hegseth stuff I want to share with you, and more on Iran as things, in my judgment, come unraveled a bit. Lucy McAllister, are you kidding me? A $20 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you. Thank you, everybody who supports the show with super stickers and super chats and in Patreon and PayPal. I appreciate that. I'll give a special shout out to the Patreon, PayPal people a little bit later if I can in the show. Corey Lewandowski wants the penthouse jet all to himself, says Jim. So, yeah, well, Kristi Noem leaving. You know, if those two have been together a long time, and I don't know, it seems to be a very close working relationship. Maybe I'll put it that way. And maybe sometimes, you know, when you've been around somebody a long time, working so closely, it's time for a break. You know, it freshens things up. You know what I'm saying?
What?
I'm just saying that it's possible that it all works out for Corey. He moves on to the, you know. Look, I hope they're both very happy.
Who is having that conversation?
Shield of America seems about as real as the Board of Peace, says John Watson. It is weird, man. He cooks up these titles for fake agencies that then waste the taxpayer money. He does that overnight. Rein says, send ICE to Iran. Yeah. There you go. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Yeah.
Big shout out.
You guys are so anxious to brutalize people and rough people up. Why don't you guys head over and work with the real military? Richard Delamater with the $2 super chat. In Nevada, gas went up from $4.49 to $5.19 overnight. Yeah, this brings me to Iran, which I'd love to get to, because I think that is a big part of the Iranian situation, and there will be
the Mark Thompson Show.
There will be quite a bit of interruption in the flow of energy from the Middle East. And I'll mention that I know the president is talking about escorting tanker ships through the Strait of Hormuz. I just don't think that's a reality. As usual, it's rhetoric, but if you actually look at the practical challenge associated with military ships accompanying the flow of oil ships through the Strait of Hormuz, it's, I think, just not a workable logistical situation. So I'll talk more about that with a logistics expert next week. But I promise you that the statements of the president when it comes to the flow of oil and energy through the Strait of Hormuz, they're just not tracking with the reality at all. The Spain situation is one that the White House now is claiming has all been worked out. The White House is saying that Spain has agreed to cooperate with the U.S. military. That is a quote from the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. Leavitt saying that Madrid had heard Trump's message loud and clear and was now coordinating action with Washington. That was the problem before. They hadn't heard the message loud and clear, but now they're hearing it loud and clear. They heard it loud before, but the clear part wasn't in there. Now it's loud and clear, and they will be coordinating action with Washington. Now, the Spanish foreign minister, Jose Luis Alvarez, he has a different take, and he's also now broadcasting loud and clear. And he's saying, quote, I categorically deny this. Spain's position on the war in the Middle East, on the attack on Iran, on the use of our bases has not changed. He said, she might be the White House spokesperson, but I'm the foreign minister of Spain.
What?
They think whatever they say is just going to be the truth. They can spin it however they want to spin it.
Yeah, they can say it into reality.
Yeah. We say it enough, people will
Wild
believe
idea,
it.
but it just might work.
Yeah.
Spain's like, no.
Alvarez saying that Madrid's commitment to staying out of, quote, a military operation that is being carried out in violation of international law is unwavering. There is an agreement, he said, a bilateral accord. You can explain that to Donald Trump, what that is. And outside the framework of that bilateral agreement, there will be no use of Spanish sovereign bases, he said. Of course, that's the 1953 agreement with the U.S. that gives Madrid a say over how American forces stationed on its territory are used. Quote, any operation must be within the framework of the United Nations. The foreign minister saying he had no idea where Levitt had gotten her incorrect information. I have an idea where she got it. But Spain is not playing.
Glenn says George Costanza said it's not a lie if you believe it.
Right. It's exactly that. And pro-American Kurdish forces now are preparing possible incursions in Iran. The CIA involved with small weapons being given to Iranian Kurdish forces in a covert program that began before the war. They had given these small arms to them in an effort to destabilize Iranian leadership. It began, as I say, before this official bombing, and this what's the operation called again? Epic
Fury.
Epic Pleasure, Epic Fury,
Epic
whatever
Fury.
the hell it is.
Epic Fury, yeah.
It's just crazy. I'll play you some Pete.
Did you just confuse fury with pleasure?
Well, it's
Maybe
pleasure. It's pleasure for them. It's pleasure for them. The CIA is involved anyway in arming this Kurdish crew. The Kurds have done a lot of the heavy lifting for the Americans. As you know, they did it in Syria as well. And of course, and this is the Trump first administration, season 1, we totally screwed them. We pulled out of Syria and we left them holding the bag, and there was no arrangement made. And that may be what happens in Iran as well, although it's a far, far deeper quagmire in Iran than even in Syria, although Syria was completely mishandled also. That was from, again, the first Trump administration. But in a briefing on a Wednesday, that was yesterday as we speak to you, Caroline Leavitt saying that the Trump administration has the Kurds launching an insurgency, and those reports are completely false. The U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign in Iran that began on Saturday did kill the supreme leader and other top officials, also targeting government and security facilities around the country, including the Iran-Iraq border. As this continues, this reporting, any U.S. effort to assist the Kurds in beginning an incursion into Iran or any sort of insurgency there would be a change in this war. But the idea would be if it's a large enough incursion, it could force the Iranian army units to respond, and that would allow American or Israeli planes to target those units. That's the thinking. But again, she's saying it's not happening, and I mentioned to you, we got a long history of working with these Kurdish militia forces in Iraq, in Syria, but we have, I think, a reputation of just leaving the Kurds holding the bag. I mean, so... if you're the Kurds, I don't know why you're doing business with us. The tragedy of Iran is the loss of life. And as you know, in, I want to say day 2, there was the strike on that Iranian girls' elementary school. Caroline Leavitt was asked about that, and she had this to say. It's cut 7, please, Albert.
President that is on the table. Sean.
Did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter, and I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively. And unfortunately, many people in this room have fallen for that propaganda. So I would caution you from pointing the finger at the United States of America when it comes to targeting civilians, because that's not something that these armed forces do. Reagan.
Yeah, so that's her answer. We don't do that kind of thing. Homie, don't play that. Meanwhile, what we do is we sink Iranian warships, and this report, complete with pictures of this sinking, is the latest out of the Pentagon. Albert?
Is destroying what the Pentagon describes as an advanced Iranian warship. The U.S. says 20 Iranian naval vessels have now been sunk, including this Iranian ship in the Indian Ocean, torpedoed by a U.S. submarine. The first such attack by the Navy since 1945. Nearly 150 people on board are presumed dead. U.S. officials also ramping up the war effort over land, vowing to strike deeper inside Iran. releasing this video of long-range precision strike missiles being used in combat for the first time.
We're in very good shape now. I want to let you know that, and we will continue forward. But it's a great display of military strength.
The Pentagon now identifying more of the U.S. troops believed to have been killed in Sunday's Iranian drone attack in Kuwait. They include Major Jeffrey O'Brien of Iowa and Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marsan of California. The 4 other victims were already identified, including Sergeant First Class Nicola Moore of Minnesota, a mother of 2 whose husband says he spoke to her 2 hours before she was killed. She was just days from returning home. Iran overnight launching more missiles toward Israel and Saudi Arabia as the State Department announced the first chartered flight carrying American evacuees had departed the Middle East.
To be here, close to a week later is definitely disheartening.
Here in Qatar, I met Ryan Blackman from Frisco, Texas. He's hoping to get home to his wife and 3 kids.
I have hopes that every day is going to be the last day, that I'll be here and ultimately get to go back home.
Thousands of Americans across 14 countries are urgently trying to flee the region. Sarah Monti from Nashville says a missile narrowly missed her hotel in Dubai.
I have a video of a missile that was deflected right off of our balcony. It was something that you never think you're going to live through. It's nerve-wracking to say the least.
The State Department says it is actively securing more planes for evacuees. As the military takes out more enemy missile launchers, Central Command says the number of missile attacks from Iran has dropped nearly 90%, and drone launches are down more than 70%. The Pentagon is downplaying concerns that the U.S. could run low on expensive missile interceptors.
We have sufficient precision munitions for the task at hand, both on the offense and defense.
I don't believe any of those percentages. I'm sure you don't either. The Pentagon has a rich history of lying about everything. You can go back to whatever conflict you want. Go back to Afghanistan, read the Afghanistan papers. Go back to Iraq, read the many books about the many lies that went into that conflict. Go back to Vietnam, Libya. So just the percentages, to put it aside, I just think you have to look really askance at those. That said, the videos that are showing you in the video age, the destruction, the kind of video game aspect to war, they leave out the human toll in a big way. And they don't really give you a complete picture of what's going on. They give you the Pentagon's picture of what's going on, to be perfectly frank. And Michael Hernandez says, we are asking Ukraine to help U.S. with drones after humiliating them for a year. Yeah, I wonder if they'll try to, bolster the supply of drones with drones from Ukraine. But the nature of war has changed, and this entrance of drones has completely changed the arithmetic, as you're well aware. So you've got $20,000 drones going up and doing serious damage, and they're being taken down by $1 million missiles. And that asymmetry just can't exist for more than a month, 5 weeks. The Americans have to begin to refigure how they're fighting this conflict. That's just on the military side. I'm not even talking about the politics of Iran, the reality of the culture of Iran, the society, the infrastructure that will have to be rebuilt. They have a huge water issue there, electricity. These are all things that are going to be threatened and perhaps completely derailed by this American effort. U.S. and Mideast countries seek Kyiv's drone expertise as the Russia-Ukraine talks are put on ice. Yeah, all of a sudden, the Americans run to the Ukrainians. But the message, of course, is everything's going great, couldn't be going greater, and here is the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, doing his best, continuing Animal House, frat boy, rah, 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 coach at halftime speech about how America is on the verge of victory, and it's the biggest victory ever, And thank you, Supreme Leader, for helping to make it happen.
This is not a mission accomplished situation. This is simply a reality check. The combination of U.S. and Israeli intelligence and combat power will control Iran, and will control it soon. Sure, Iran will still be able to shoot some missiles and still be able to launch one-way attack drones at civilian targets, and their proxies will attempt to attack our embassies, bases, and soft targets. They are terrorists, after all, and they need to target civilians because they can't fight toe-to-toe. But we will find them, and we will kill them. This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step. As I said Monday, the mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons. Iran will never possess a nuclear bomb, not on our watch, not ever. And this is why President Trump's moral clarity on Iran today is so vital.
Moral clarity and the smugness with which he talks about this conflict, it's so on brand for Pete Hegseth, who's in completely over his head, and essentially he's just reading at the lectern the strongest words, and he likes to rhetorically somehow flex about this conflict in a way that doesn't represent any kind of reality. And the truth is, this is, I guess, what I was saying before, that this war is far more complicated than Hegseth gamed out. The guy who you saw saying in that package from ABC that, you know, we have enough in the way of munitions to handle the task at hand, as he was saying. That's the General Kane, Raisin Kane, as Trump calls him. He knows better. He knows that we're actually on a short string, a much shorter string than the rest of these guys know. So you can love the boom and you can love the bright lights of bombing, but the reality on the ground is far more complicated with Iran than in any of the other theaters of war that this president has considered or gotten us into. I'm talking about Syria. I'm talking about Venezuela. I'm even talking about the tactical strike associated with the 12-day military exercise taking out the Iran nuclear program. Again, obliterating, the first time we were obliterating the nuclear program. This is a far more complicated effort. And again, it's complicated because there isn't a guarantee that political leadership is even going to change in Iran. I get that, again, these guys who are all about the boom, they think somehow you can bomb your way into changing political leadership, but that's just not true. And then what you're left with is a country. I mean, again, this is, assuming you're left with anything. I think this could go on for a very long time. It feels exactly like Iraq, only it's populated by more stupid. As ridiculous as Iraq was, poorly planned, no after-action plan. Read the Thomas Ricks book, Fiasco, about Iraq. Everybody all hot and bothered to get into Iraq in the Bush administration. Cheney couldn't wait to get in. His Halliburton buddies couldn't wait to set up the infrastructure in the green zone of Iraq. They depose Hussein. They grab Hussein. The Baathists ran wild, armed as they were, just like the Revolutionary Guard in Iran, only not as many of them. You've got an Iran Revolutionary Guard, 125,000 of them, well-trained and armed. What are you going to do with them? You've told them to lay down their arms to who? Lay down their arms to the people they were just assassinating in the street, the demonstrators? It's not even thought out on that level. Yet we get from the Pentagon and in media reports, we get the videos of this tanker being taken out or this Iranian warship being taken out. I'm sorry, not a tanker, a warship. These Iranian installations being taken out. We're taking out their drone abilities and we're diminishing their missile abilities, sir. This isn't a movie. These are real people. This is a real society, and there's real infrastructure there. I'm not saying, Khomeini and getting rid of Khomeini wasn't a great thing. It is. And, could things somehow settle out to actually produce a better situation for the people of Iran? Yes. I mean, it could luckily bounce into something. But what I'm suggesting is that they don't have the plan. If something good happens, it's not because Trump, Hegseth, and the associated morons who are running American foreign policy put it in place. Yeah, Keir Starmer said you can't bomb your way into regime change. It's a very well-known kind of adage of war. Iran has a plan. Hegseth is thinking about happy hours, says Greg. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is true on some level, that the Iranians have been planning for the American-Israeli attack for years now. And so their idea is, we get it. You're going to mess us up, but we're going to mess up you, and we're going to mess up Israel, and we'll mess up you, America, by firing at your many bases in the Middle East, and they will continue that firing. I don't know. You tell me. The drone battle is very much a battle that you can continue for weeks and weeks and weeks. The asymmetry of this conflict is such that the drones take on an amplified role in it all. And as I say, if you successfully, and again, this is skipping way ahead in the movie, if you successfully make some deal with Iran, you put in leadership that seems amenable to the West, to America, to Israel, to abandoning any nuclear ambitions, etc. Look at the destruction. What will happen? The American taxpayer will have to begin the rebuild there, the way we began the rebuild in so many other theaters of war where we've destroyed everything in the way of infrastructure. They have a huge water problem there in Iran. I mean, I wonder if the Pentagon is even aware of that, or if Trump is even aware of that. And so this war has complexities associated with it that are simply not being accounted for. And I'll mention it because it was mentioned by somebody in the chat. The oil price, of course, beginning to escalate, right? Brent crude settling up. It looks around 5% today. There is no movement in the Strait of Hormuz, so prices are going to grind higher. This is from a partner at a capital firm associated with energy pricing. No movement in the Strait of Hormuz, so prices are going to grind higher, and with countries having to shut in production, they'll be delayed even longer because it's not like you can just resume production at full strength, he says. That will be a problem for a while. Meanwhile, the president feels that the next leader of Iran should be selected by, if you guessed by him, yeah. The next leader of Iran should be selected by Donald Trump, says Donald Trump. Khomeini's son is unacceptable to me, he said. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. I have to be involved in the appointment like I was in Venezuela. The Strait of Hormuz closure is going to be big. And, you know, Iraq, the second largest crude producer in OPEC, they've cut output by a tremendous amount because of a lack of storage and a lack of an export route. They have no way to get it out of the Middle East. Qatar, the biggest liquid natural gas producer in the Gulf, saying that return to normal production volumes may take a month. They've shut down for now. Attacks on oil tankers continued in the Gulf. The hull was breached on an oil tanker flagged out of the Bahamas. And these attacks, along with the Chinese measures to reduce fuel exports, pushing prices higher. Some oil refineries in the Middle East, China, and India shut their crude units because of the raging conflict in the Middle East. As a result of a lower supply outlook in fuel markets, U.S. diesel futures jumping and reaching over $3.60 a gallon during this session of trading. Around 300 oil tankers remain inside the Strait of Hormuz after the traffic in and out of the Strait of Hormuz nearly halted following the outbreak of the war. As I've told you, and then I'll get to David Katz, there is talk that the American military will somehow escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a logistical nightmare. I don't even know how that would work. So I think there's a lot being said that may or may not actually come to pass. As I say, there's a game of rhetoric being played in addition to everything else. All right, that's the word on what's happening in the Middle East at the moment and a snapshot of where we are.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I thank you for being here, all of you. Smash the like button if you would. It helps us in the world of YouTube. And leave a comment if you would. Any engagement with the show helps us, and we appreciate
with your iron rod.
Everyone being here. We were a radio show in San Francisco, California, a really popular radio show. And the whole station went away. And so when that happened, we moved over here to YouTube. This is our home court, but we're also an audio podcast on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Apple Podcasts, and we exist that way too. We welcome our partners, and one of our advertising partners is Zellman's. I just popped a couple of them before I started the big show. Tiny capsules, huge results. Powerful mint on the outside. You kind of swish it around. It gives you that fresh pop in your mouth. I take 3 at a time because you get the fresh pop and then you swallow the capsule, which is on the inside after the outer coating is gone. And the inside then dissolves with a parsley seed oil designed to help interact with the stuff in your gut and fight odors that can cause bad breath. It works. I road tested it for a month. We did in my house. Courtney and I both took it. And we take it the night before because it gets rid of and helps reduce morning breath. Zellmans.com, Zelmins, Zellmans.com. Use our discount code MARKT for 15% off. You road taste it yourself. You tell me. Zellmans.com. In your mouth, the freshness. In your gut, it really works. Zellmans.com, again, Mark T at checkout for 15% off.
The Mark Thompson Show.
One of the great legal analysts in the English-speaking world is with us now. He is a former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney, the brilliant David Katz. Hi, David.
Great to be with you, Mark.
David, so much going on. I want to ask you first about this Pam Bondi move to somehow protect, by instituting a policy, protect probes into attorneys who are working for the Department of Justice. It would bar ethics probes into DOJ attorneys. Can you just give me a second on that?
Well, yes, this is very important. One of the reasons why line attorneys in the Department of Justice wouldn't do Trump's bidding or Bondi's bidding is because they would be worried about getting in trouble with the bars, the state bar. So in order to be an attorney, you have to be admitted in a state bar. Normally, it's the state bar where you work as an assistant U.S. attorney. So when I came out to California from Washington, D.C. to work in the Reagan administration for Reagan's U.S. attorney out here, I had to pass the bar. So they allow you to practice for 3 or 4 months because I was a member of the bar back in Washington, D.C. But then you have to pass the next bar exam. And you have like 2 tries. Luckily, I did it on the first attempt. But you have like 2 tries. And if you don't make it, then you're really done as an assistant U.S. attorney. So the point of that is that there's an independent agency which makes sure that you have the competence and ethics to be an attorney, and they give and they can take it away. So you can be subject to bar discipline if you do something that's illegal. Now, normally it's something like, let's say, drunk driving, or it might be a domestic assault. But if you do something wrong and the bar so finds in terms of following illegal orders, notwithstanding your supervisor, Bondi likes it, notwithstanding the U.S. attorney who hires you in that office likes it, or your supervisor tells you to do it. If you do something like, let's say, lie to a judge, you could not only be in contempt, but even if for some reason you didn't get in trouble for that, Mark, you could get in bar trouble. And the rubber really hit the road with Professor Eastman. People may remember his case out here in California. He gave advice to the president that the president could go ahead with those slates. And that advice seemed so contrary to law, so baseless, that they basically brought him up on bar charges of giving a baseless position that no competent attorney, after researching it, would give. That's controversial. But the bar found that in that case, he really just kowtowed to Trump. He hadn't really given a well-founded, a reasonable, even in his own view, subjectively, objectively reasonable. It wasn't any of that. It was just basically, lies that he told Trump so that Trump could do what he wanted to do. And then Trump could turn around and say, well, I relied on Professor Eastman. And they said, no, the advice was garbage. And as things stand right now, he has been, I believe, as things stand now, disbarred, and he's fighting that in the courts. So it's a very important restraint on these assistant U.S. attorneys around the country, DOJ attorneys. And apparently it's working. A lot of the ones you hear about who bravely say no, or who actually quit their posts, it's because they figure, I'm going to be a lawyer for the next 30 years. If I quit, and I may only be a lawyer for a year or two more, if I go ahead, just follow orders. And the thing that brings you up is not the international court, like with that expression of, the Nazi expression, just following orders. But if you're just following orders and you don't have a legal and factual basis, or you lie to courts, or you fail to do what courts want to do, you could not only be in contempt, but you could have bar proceedings brought against you. Giuliani had bar proceedings brought against him. I'm pretty sure that he was disbarred by the New York bar as Eastman was disbarred by the California bar.
Now, the Justice Department doesn't have any power, do they, to intervene in these state bar ethics investigations?
Oh, you so underestimate Patel and Bondi. I'm sure that some bar governor is going to be brought up on tax charges.
Oh, right. Okay.
You got a second home and you didn't fill out your loan application properly. They haven't begun to fight vindictively. But no, you're right that in theory, of course, they have no power over bar regulators. These are people who are, part of the state system of bar regulation. But, people who love to go around and say, oh, lawyers, what do you call 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the sea? Let me just tell them that not only do people like lawyers when they need one, but on top of that, lawyers do have a constraint. Let's be honest. They have a constraint in a way that, let's say, Trump's never had to answer for his professional conduct to a regulatory board. Someone like Hegseth has never had to. Lawyers do have to, they have guardrails, and the guardrails are bar discipline, which has nothing to do, as you say, with whether the federal government likes it or not. They have had some big fights over the years. They weren't very high profile, but for instance, contacting someone who's represented, there may be different rules. And the prosecutors may say, Mark, that I need to contact someone who's represented because they're all represented by the cartel's lawyers. And so if I go to, I know he's not the cartel leader's lawyer, but he's one of the lieutenants. And if I contact him through his lawyer works for the mob and will immediately rat it out to the mob that we're even having this discussion, the prosecutor and this attorneys. So they've said in some cases over the years that they should have a right to go around that lawyer in certain circumstances, maybe get the permission of a judge to go around. And the reason that they're so worried about it is that, it's a pretty clear bar rule that you cannot contact a represented person, and that prosecutor is contacting a represented person. So that's one where, it kind of makes sense and you can understand the debate. But these are the things where they give the lady like 88 different immigration cases, Mark. And she tells the judge, this is the famous one who said, lock me up already, because at least I'll get a good night's sleep. But right now I'm trying to juggle 88 cases, and ICE doesn't do what I tell them to do. Remember that case from a few weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she could be she could have been, if she had just, if she'd done the exact opposite of what she ended up doing, which was righteous. But if she'd done a lot of not righteous things, and you might say, well, wait, if you lie to a judge, isn't that contempt? And sure, that covers the situation some. But there's a person who doesn't actually appear in court, but they do something that the bar might take a very dim view of. That lawyer might be restrained properly from doing that improper thing, not right in front of a judge where they'd be held in contempt, but in sort of the backdrop of it.
Sure.
This is apparently working. So this is very good. And what it's unbelievable that the Department of Justice is involved. What they're saying right now is that these bars around the country, these state bars, should stay their hand. They should let the government investigate first. So, let's assume it had been some lawyer that was involved in giving the order or setting the stage for them shooting to death Preddy in Minneapolis. Sure. Let's assume it was some lawyer who did that. They're going to conduct their own investigation. Nobody believes that the DOJ or DHS is going to conduct a proper investigation. So what they want to do is tell these state bars, oh, don't look into that lawyer for breaking bar rules. We'll investigate it. And then, of course, it's just, it's the classic thing with the Trump administration. Kick the can down the road, try and see if they can get the bar to stay their hand, not do their own investigation. Meanwhile, the federal authorities right now under Trump do no investigation or sham investigation.
So essentially putting a wrap on that, it's short of a DOJ shakedown, which is kind of what it is. The DOJ has no real jurisdiction there. We'll watch it, but it's nonetheless, she's petitioning to make those ethics probes go away when it comes to her people from the DOJ. I want to ask you about the 1,000 companies, or more of them, I think more than 1,000, suing for refunds under the tariffs, tens of billions of dollars. And the refund process, it was ruled by a federal court judge this week that the refund process for Trump's tariffs should be finalized with paperwork for imported goods to be completed. Richard Eaton, a senior judge on the U.S. Court of International Trade, set to essentially hand down this decision, which is going to allow for the recovery, at least the beginning of the process, David, of all of these taxes that were paid. And it's refunds on taxes, essentially. And it's tens of billions of dollars. So this is a very much anticipated decision, but it's one that is associated with maybe some logistical issues. Nonetheless, the paperwork on all of this is going to is proceeding. He's saying, go ahead. This has to be done. There has to be a tariff repayment.
Well, it was anticipated by me, and certainly with 2020 hindsight, it would have been better for those international trade courts. They're federal courts, but they're pretty much designated for international trade disputes like this. They have a lot of sophistication, and I wish that they had stopped the collection as part of their ruling. They didn't stop the collection, and then we were all a little mystified that the U.S. Supreme Court waited months to decide the case, during which the Supreme Court did not stop or stay the collection. But we are where we are right now, and this international court is going to try to recoup the money pretty quickly for the big companies, which have kept great records. That leaves the issue of how do we consumers get the money back. But just to start that off on the right where it begins, Trump told the courts, Trump's lawyers told the courts, oh, well, if the courts rule against us, which they shouldn't do because we're so right, it's so clear that we're right, but if they rule against us, don't worry, we'll do everything we can to get the tariffs back promptly. Now, of course, they were lying. They were lying to those courts. They were dissembling because now they've done everything they can to slow it down. And Trump has even said, oh, this could take 5 years. Well, it's only going to take 5 years if the Trump administration slows it down and if they get these courts to not order the disgorgement as promptly as they should, because for some of them, the records are very clear. As you say, there's over, I think, 1,000 lawsuits that have already been filed. Some of them are very substantial, like FedEx. FedEx is an importer. They pay an import tax. They keep meticulous records of all the tariffs that they've paid and on behalf of whom. And as soon as FedEx gets the money back, they're going to have to recoup it. And if FedEx tries to hang on to the money or hang on to it for a couple of years, getting interest for it, using it, the people who are entitled to it, the businesses entitled to get it from FedEx, they'll complain. So there'll be some disgorgement, I think, fairly quickly. And the only reason there won't be is if Trump tries to be a sore loser and delay, the return of the money. When it comes to consumers, there are some states which are now demanding the money back. There's a lawsuit by the state of Illinois. The governor, Democratic governor, has said, hey, we have pretty good records of how much has been collected. And we're more than happy to help out, having you return it to all of the consumers of Illinois. Let's get on it. Let's crack those numbers and let's get the money back to everybody who overpaid. I think some other states will be that aggressive. And then there's other things like, as I say, if you bought a car and there's 20,000 of it is tariffs and Mercedes gets the $20,000, it's not, brain surgery to get your 20,000 back from Mercedes, because Mercedes charged you $20,000 extra for that car. And then there'll be some specials. Presumably you'll walk into Costco or Walmart and there'll be some big discounts, which is not really giving you back what you paid out, but at least is trying to do something for you to get goodwill. In general, though, prices have been increased. They say that the average American consumer has paid over $1,000 on account of Trump's tariffs, his misguided tariffs that he tried to use to twist arms and get favors for himself and his family around the world. At least the U.S. Supreme Court stopped that as of the date of the decision.
I want to turn to immigration, and you oftentimes talk about the way in which the courts are handing the Trump regime various defeats, really, in the courts of law. This is one that I feel is a victory for them, but you can tell me if it is or not. And that is the Supreme Court unanimously ruling that the federal appeals court should defer to immigration judges when they're looking at asylum decisions. So it will be the immigration's judges' authorities that will be respected in the legal process. The decision handed down on somebody's deportation is going to be, it would seem, the role of the immigration judge and not an appealable role at that. Can you speak to that?
Well, let's take a look at the actual case that was before the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a fellow comes into the United States, I believe, illegally, but when he gets here into our borders, he says, hey, I'm making an asylum claim. Let me tell you about how terrible it is down in Central America. I have these two half-brothers, and they were whacked by a hitman, and I think the hitman has an interest in killing me too, and you ought to grant me asylum. And an immigration judge, who's not what we call an Article III judge, he's not someone who has life or she has life tenure. So this is someone who, they work for the INS, but they're not an INS agent, they're an INS judge. And so, of course, if you want to be suspicious, you think that they go with the administration. Trump can fire them. He has fired a lot of them. He can certainly, impress upon them how he wants them to rule and be unreceptive, to asylum claims. But anyway, some immigration judge says, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't think you're entitled to asylum based on that. Now, I haven't gone back and studied the case, if he really had, how much evidence he really had. Maybe he just didn't have a factual grounding for what he said. Maybe it was improbable that this hitman would come into the United States because he's here now. But of course, if he loses, he gets sent back to his country where the hitman is. But anyway, for some reason, the immigration judge doesn't buy it, and he goes up to the federal courts then, the federal appellate court, the circuit court, as he's allowed to. And he says, look, I think I did have a proper basis. I think the immigration judge should have bought my argument. The federal circuit court says, nah, we don't buy it. We're not here to review all the facts. The immigration judge found the facts. And remarkably, that case went to the Supreme Court, Mark. You'd think that would have been the end of it, but the Supreme Court took it, which means they had 4 of the 9 votes to take it. And then once they ruled on it, they ruled unanimously, with Jackson writing the opinion, that they should not go back and retry the facts, that they have to pretty much take as given the facts unless there's some incredibly compelling reason why not. And I suppose he didn't have that record, and the federal courts are probably worried that the U.S. Supreme Court's worried, Mark, that with as many cases as there are, as many people who would love to have the circuit courts retry their facts, they would bring the courts basically to a standstill. There'd be so many of them, and they'd all want a retrial, a reevaluation of the facts by the circuit court. And that's the only explanation why the 3 of them, 3 liberals, all voted and made a unanimous decision. Because
so it was a logistical issue, it sounds to me. You're sort of suggesting they were looking ahead at the way the court system would be gummed up by this, as opposed to the virtue maybe in the appeal process.
You know, Trump's Supreme Court only wants the federal courts gummed up when it's Trump's appeals. When it's Trump's appeals, they can be as gummy and as slow and as everything else as you could possibly imagine. But when it's some poor guy claiming asylum, he doesn't have enough proof. He's wasting everybody's time. He should go back to his country and, I guess, hide from the hitman.
A big reversal this week. The DOJ, so we started the week with this idea somehow that the Trump administration would no longer battle those law firms and the ones that were targeted in the first hours, it seemed, of the Trump administration, that they wanted to drop, the Justice Department officials said, the appeal of these law firms who were kind of, I guess, in the grappling match with the government legally about the way that they were targeted. You know these firms, Perkins Cole, Wilmer Hale, Sussman, Godfrey, and Jenner and Block. They'd fought back against executive orders by Trump that took aim at their security clearances, at their government contracts, access to government buildings because of their clientele and hiring. But the Justice Department then, after withdrawing this idea that they were going to go after these firms and continue to go after these firms, they've now reversed that reversal. And now they're saying that they are going to continue to go after these firms. I mean, is that, give me the state of the state on this. It seems confusing. I was actually, I thought it was kind of optimistic good news when they were first dropping these cases against these law firms.
Well, yes, the, law firms are not political parties, Mark, right? And some of them have grown to have 1,000 or 2,000 attorneys. And so they like to be in a position where it doesn't matter that much who's in office, that, they can litigate these cases. And of course, they're litigating them in front of judges. If they can't settle them, they end up being litigated. And judges are of both parties, and judges are all supposed to be fair and not rule on the basis of, whose political ox is being gored. But the reality is that firms tend to take on a Democratic or less so a Republican identity. There are firms that right away come to mind as being, Republican firms here in Los Angeles, like Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, a very fine firm, was seen as a leans right Republican firm. A lot of, former Republican prosecutors, Republican government officials went to Gibson, Dunn, and O'Melveny and Myers was sort of the liberal leaning firm. And you certainly had that, like the law firm that I worked at in Washington, D.C., Arnold and Porter was really known as being, a firm that had come out of the FDR administration and had all these famous people from FDR. And likewise, I worked on a firm on Wall Street for a while, which had the Secretary of War during the FDR administration, but he was a Republican. So that's the kind of mix that they tried to have. What was so shocking about Trump's order was the idea that it was really going to be enforced against certain firms. And firms would say, we have 1,000, we have 2,000 people here. We're about to get blackballed because we have one person here that Trump doesn't like. It seems so far-fetched. Why would you, it's just the so unreasonable way that he is. Yes, let's go punish a law firm of 1,000 people with a bunch of brilliant lawyers because we don't like one guy. They took one pro bono case, or there was some guy who used to be associated with this firm who then went on to prosecute or bring a fraud case against Trump. So we're going to blackball the whole firm. Well, a lot of firms gave in, especially the Republican-leaning firms, Mark. And one of the reasons was that, we had this image of these law firms as having all these, incredibly, bright, articulate, file great briefs, give great arguments, litigators. That's our view kind of lawyers and law firms. That's not the reality of your 1,000 or 2,000 lawyer firm. Most of them have a much bigger corporate practice. And it's the corporate practice, the deal making and that sort of thing that brings in the really big bucks. So none of them really kind of wanted to be at loggerheads with an administration because they're trying to get big business. And look at how big business has been. Look at the tech companies. They've kowtowed to Trump much more than the law firms. I mean, just if you're going to compare the two of them together. So a lot of them gave in, and people were really frustrated because, we're not supposed to do stuff like that. We're supposed to be, first of all, lawyers and law firms are supposed to be above that. But my God, a president's supposed to be above that. The things that he threatened were unbelievable. You wouldn't have access to federal government property. Even David Katz, law firm of 2 people, I have access to federal government property. No one is trying to tell me I can't go to the federal jail if, God forbid, I can't get my client out of federal custody. That's federal property.
Well, you have to go to federal court. I mean, sometimes to defend your, you're right.
Federal court would be a close one. To actually try to keep you out of the courthouse, I think would be a very hard one. But the examples I'm giving, the federal jail, part of the Bureau of Prisons, not really part of the court system. I go down and have meetings with the FBI sometimes about my cases. The last 2 times have been on Friday. Riots, at least according to Trump, broke out both times, and we had to curtail the meetings. But you get what I'm saying, going into federal buildings, the idea that he was going to really do stuff like that. His other threat was security clearances. So if you're working on some national security cases, which could be a lot of antitrust cases, a lot of media cases, could have an international component to the point that you need to have a national security clearance. He's really knocking you and your firm out as an attorney entirely. If he says, you don't have a security clearance, you can't look at the documents that you need to, represent the client. So he made these really draconian threats, and that anybody would give in. The other one that was hilarious in retrospect, because I think he's going to lose the whole thing, was that you had to do pro bono, but only the pro bono that he liked. So you ended up with companies like Paul Weiss, law firms like Paul Weiss, which was famous for touting that they were, great, great helpers of the people and of people's causes. So Paul Weiss caved in almost immediately, and that shocked people. And the ones that you've mentioned, Mark, like Wilmer Hale, that's the one that Ali Mayorkas went to. That's also the one, the special prosecutor. I don't know why I always forget his name now. The one Trump won. The older fellow who people didn't think was very articulate in front of when he explained the report that he had made. You're
talking about the Mueller. You're talking about Mueller.
Yeah. Mueller went to Wilmer Hale. Ali Mayorkas, the former head of DHS, went to Wilmer Hale. It's a very well-respected firm. They fought. The other ones that you mentioned fought, and they all basically won. They won with every single judge that they appeared in front of. And certainly for the image of lawyers, Mark, that's what lawyers are supposed to do. They're supposed to go to court and win. They all fought and they all won. But that's very nice to say. But if you're a very Trumpy firm and you're getting like the merger, you're getting the Paramount merger, or you're getting some other incredible piece of business, okay? How Paramount ended up winning. Paramount ended up looking like they had the inside track. I have no idea who their lawyers were. But why would Paramount, for that, want to hire somebody? Would they want to hire Wilmer Hale or one of the other three?
Sure, you don't want to hire an embattled. You don't want to hire an embattled law firm. I've got to excuse me. I've got to move along, David Katz, because you're so great and you give me such detailed responses. But I have a couple of outstanding questions for you.
I'll give you shorter ones. Sorry.
No. You're great. I guess I'm trying to explain why I'm cutting in. I wanted to ask you about the likely clemency that will be granted to this election denier, Tina Peters. This is in Colorado. And the lawyer for her says that he expects the Colorado governor to grant clemency. I'll just remind everybody, this is a 9-year prison sentence that was handed down. And this is the only person serving a sentence related to trying to overturn the 2020 election. And she was the county clerk in western Colorado in Mesa County in 2020 and allowed an unauthorized person to use a security badge and to access her county's voting equipment. She also gave out passwords and other sensitive information related to the county's election equipment, and that later became public, and it was used by election deniers to try to question the 2020 election results. Anyway, she was found guilty of 3 counts of attempting to influence a public servant, conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, first-degree official misconduct, violation of duty, failure to comply with Secretary of State, sentenced to 9 years in prison. Trump tried to pardon her, couldn't because it's a state situation, and repeatedly urged the governor to pardon her. And I turn it over to you. They say now her attorney is saying that they expect a total grant of clemency from the governor of Colorado. Can you speak to this, please, sir?
Well, she got too long a sentence. There's no doubt about that. And, all of these people who are things like sentencing guidelines and that, they're always worried about not just the judges who are deemed to be too lenient, but the ones who are hanging judges. And this seems like she got herself in front of a hanging judge. She probably never expressed remorse. She probably told the judge, if I were out on probation and I could do it again, I'd do the same thing again because I love Trump and Trump should have won. And you know what I mean? She was completely unrepentant, I'm sure. But 9 years was too long. So the governor there, a Democrat, is going to commute her sentence. Trump did this absurd thing, just performative, where he granted her a federal pardon. She doesn't have any federal charges, so that was meaningless. And, this is exactly what the Republicans are always claiming that the Democrats do, and they can never find proof that the Democrats did it. This was a Republican who did it. She did everything she could to subvert the electoral process and to make sure that the election didn't come out right and that the count didn't come out right. And she was unrepentant about it. But I agree with the commutation. 9 years is too much.
And now I take you to one last story, if I can, and it's the auto pen story. The probe into the auto pen use by Biden is closed by the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. These are federal prosecutors in Janine Pirro's office, and they're dropping the criminal probe into whether President Joe Biden and his aides unlawfully used an auto pen to issue pardons. Again, this is also part of the Trump jihad against anything that's Biden. 2 sources confirming the existence of the probe, and one saying that the matter has since been closed. Prosecutors never able to find a legal hook to be able to pursue the matter further. Again, Trump ordered an investigation into whether the Biden administration used the auto pen machine to sign key presidential documents like pardons, and he says that those pardons are illegal. Trump telling Bondi, go after this. Now they're saying they're closing that probe.
Well, this is Pirro in Washington, D.C. She's the U.S. attorney. She announced about a week or 2 ago that she is not going to bring any criminal charges against or keep up the criminal investigation of the 2 senators and 6 Congress members who just exercised their First Amendment right and told the truth to people in the service that they should not abide by illegal orders. They shouldn't do things that were illegal. That's just black letter law. It's an outrage that they were ever under criminal investigation. But she said she dropped that, and now she says she'll drop this auto pen investigation. Both of these were just clownish efforts. So if we just have another second or two, let me just finish up for 1 second about the law firm case. It made news because on Monday they announced to the Court of Appeals that they were not going to pursue it, the administration, and then they turned right around the very next day. Obviously, it went to Trump's desk, and he said, "What do you mean you're not pursuing it? What do you mean you're not pursuing it? Pursue it." So they had to go back. I mean, how embarrassing, with their tail between their legs, and tell the Court of Appeals, "I hope you haven't dismissed the appeal yet, like we asked you to do yesterday, because we don't want you to dismiss it. We want to pursue it." And I think that Trump just figures, you know what? He's going to lose. That's not even a Katsadamas. I can't even take a point for that one. They're going to lose against the law firms. But he figures, you know what? Hold them at bay, just like the universities. You know what I mean? Keep them in a state of tension. And
the threat alone is effective.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. I did want to, one last thing, and that is the Epstein files. They are legally compelled to release all these Epstein files, and yet what apparently has happened is there was a massive tranche of the files that has now been deleted or all of a sudden missing. After getting tens of thousands of files, the Department of Justice now is making public about 2.7 million pages. 65,000 pages are gone. Some of the removed documents contained explicit images or survivor information, but it's also true that a lot of this stuff is gone and could be potentially incriminating. When you go to the files that are gone, again, they were released initially. They now return a page not found error on the department's website. Again, I'm wondering if you can speak to this. This is a CBS News analysis that originally revealed that there's 65,000 pages from the original release that are now missing. Tell me where we stand on this. I mean, aren't they legally compelled to release a lot of this?
They are legally compelled. One of the problems is that, where's the real enforcement? The enforcement would be in one of the houses of Congress ought to hold people in contempt in the Department of Justice. They ought to hail them in there, and they ought to have a searing inquiry. By the way, they did have a couple of searing inquiries on Kristi Noem. And so the breaking news is that we don't have, what did Nixon say? You won't have Kristi Noem to kick around anymore. Yeah. Oh my God, did she get kicked around with good cause? She was really, with all the terrible ones they have, Kash Patel, Bondi, she was close to the nadir, and now she's gone. She got some fancy little title that means nothing, but apparently the $225 million, Mark, that she spent, that was too much. And Trump basically says, I didn't know about it. I didn't sign off on it. You couldn't watch TV. You couldn't watch the Super Bowl. You couldn't listen to the radio without hearing those ads that she did at a cost of $225 million. That was apparently a no-bid contract given to the husband of her press secretary. This is the corrupt. I guess Trump would say, nobody can steal like me. I'm the only one in the Trump administration who gets to steal like Trump. But this is just awful. So anyway, you've got this thing going on with Bondi and the FBI. And of course, they're not turning over the records, Mark. Their story is that these 60,000 pages, they're under some review, and they have to be more reviewed. And they released records about these victims, and you could tell not only the victims, but the date of birth. That's not a mistake that you could make. That looks like one that was done to intimidate them from coming forward. The date of birth is a key fact. You would never make that mistake. And then there were photographs, including some of them are young women, some of them are girls who are naked in them. Now they've been taken back, but people grab these things, they download them right away.
Sure.
You can't take it back once it's been released. And so that seemed like it was some kind of threat, some kind of bad faith.
So they were kind of caught with that threat. We called it out here as a threat, as a clear threat. And you're saying now realizing, but the damage effectively is done. It's been out for weeks, as we're aware.
And this is so that things that really hurt friends of Trump, cronies of Trump, are not being released. And we still have the issue. Somebody said it shouldn't be called Operation Epic Fury. It should be called Operation Epsteino Distracto. And this is Epsteino Distracto, this whole mad campaign that we have, this military campaign that we have going and killing all these people.
I think it serves that goal. I don't know that's the only reason. Maybe
no, but it's certainly wag the dog. It's not the only reason. And my heart breaks for 200 schoolgirls who were killed either through just malice or incompetence, or by the United States. My God, we're the United States. We don't kill 180 schoolgirls by accident or incompetence or all the other things that we're doing over there. But anyway, the Epstein Distracto, Mark, that's certainly what's going on. And we were just at the point we were all talking about the 3 memos that show Trump involvement with a girl at the time. She was 13 to 15 years old. She has these very lurid express descriptions of Trump's sexual misconduct toward her. And the only way we know about them, which were deleted, all the 3 that I'm talking about, was because some dummy over there didn't ever check the index. And so it's an index that shows that those 3 exist, and they're about 50 pages long. And then when the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, this wasn't a dummy. This was somebody, I believe, with bad intent, who took those three out, hoping that they'd never be found. And of course, later on, Trump is going to say, I had no idea. I had no idea. Let's get those out, for God's sake. Let's get those three memos out right now. Epic fury or no epic fury.
The last comment here is from Luis. Professor Katz, do relatives of ICE detainees who die because detention centers are willfully and knowingly withholding meds like insulin or heart meds leading to death, are those relatives, I guess the question is, do relatives have legal recourse in any way? I mean, it's a sad thing to say after if someone's passed away at the hands of the kind of medical neglect that's going on in those places. But go ahead.
Absolutely. That huge windfall that the Republican Congress gave to ICE, a lot of it's going to be spent paying lawsuits. They're violating people's rights left and right. They're killing people. They killed 2 people. ICE did in Minneapolis. They've killed other people who aren't American citizens, who aren't white, but who are brown. And we're going to hear about all the brown people that they killed in custody by neglect or worse. And yes, they're going to all find good lawyers, and they're all going to sue the government. And you and I are going to be paying out of that huge windfall that was given to ICE their lawsuits.
But the human tragedy is so profound in these detention centers, squalorous detention centers where people are kept and are losing their lives in large numbers. It's not just 1 or 2. It's a real, I think, deliberate neglect that's going on there. I think it's unquestionably deliberate neglect. David, I'm out of time. I so appreciate your generous gift of your time. And I look forward to next week and then seeing you soon as your schedule lightens up. Let's grab a meal. Let's grab a lunch, baby.
I've been busy with my practice. I've had a couple of federal cases. You know, I've actually been in front of those judges you read about, the one who had the redistributing case. I was in front of her for a big federal criminal case of mine just the day right after she had the argument about whether California's redistricting was legal. She said that it was. But Mark, I'm making time for you. I'm going to get away from all the breaking news and away from my legal practice and have a great afternoon with you.
Girl, don't even play.
It's a righteous effort you're involved in, so you squeeze us in where you can. People saying they learned so much from your segments. We're so grateful. Thank you, David Katz.
It's my pleasure.
Until
Kim,
next time.
come on down. Kim, come on down and join us one of these days.
See you soon.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm so grateful for everybody who stopped through today. Yes, I am. I'm also noting some comments, and I'll get to the comments in a moment. I have to get to the fact that I drink the best coffee on earth, and I want to share the word.
I got the Moroccan mint today. Moroccan mint.
Rocking the Moroccan.
Mm-hmm.
Kim is drinking the tea.
I got it.
This is Coachella Valley Coffee. There you can find the greatest coffee on earth. It is curated by those who are so proud of this. Is a boutique roastery. Everything's hand curated, hand roasted. This isn't some discount chop shop where they sweep up beans, put them in a bag, and give them to you at a discount. This is high end. This is fresh. There's the Moroccan mint.
That's what I have.
Green tea and spearmint.
Love it.
All the different taste profiles there on the website, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Go there, enjoy, luxuriate in that which will lift your game. Lift up your coffee game, friends. I am telling you what, you will not be sorry. I like the Sunrise blend. I like the Eclipse. I like the El Gato Espresso.
Sumatra.
The Sumatra.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I love the Clarity blend too. There's a bunch, they are always investigating. There's our Why Are You Yelling? A decaf. Yeah, it's
Why are you yelling?
So you can get that too. It's from Peru. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Check them out. Mark T at checkout for 10%.
Put that coffee down.
10% off. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. When you check out, use our discount code MARK-T. And enjoy.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I am running out of time here, Albert.
And now,
I don't know what to do, Albert.
We had a very nice super chat, substantial amount, and we couldn't get to it, but here it is right here from Maria.
Maria Clayton. Oh, I think I'm falling in love with Maria Clayton. Mark and family, thank you and your family and fans for becoming my second family and speaking words my soul feels. Wow. You see how sweet that is, Kim?
Really nice. Yeah.
Why can't you be sweet like Maria Clayton?
Well, wait a minute. I'm nice.
But that is a profound sweetness.
What?
I blame you.
Mark and family, thank you and your family and fans for becoming my second family and speaking words my soul feels, she says. My
Nobody
soul
could be
feels.
as nice as that. I mean, that's just...
I
to
think
require me to be as kind as Maria is unreasonable.
I
blame you.
I'm very, very touched by that. I
really
really
nice.
am. And thank you very much, Maria. You are my favorite person for the day, if I can say that. Yeah, I mean it. Candace Worthman with a $20 super sticker. Big shout out to Candace and to all of you who support the show. Candace Worthman is, I believe, an OG of the show. I can call her. She's been with us for a long time. Northern Tier FPV. I am hooked on sweet106bakery.com. Me too, kid. Me too. When you go there, you will experience the magic. Order it, but use our discount code. You'll get 15% off. Mark T. Sweet106bakery.com. You will be hooked, I promise. But use our discount code. Sweet106bakery.com. Mark T is the discount code. Super sticker for 20 from Layla.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Layla. Thank you. It's been a serious party with war and all this other stuff. Hey, anybody remember Ukraine? Says Richard Delamater. Yeah, lost in everything is the carnage continuing in Ukraine, the, quote, negotiations that are being done by Witkoff, Trump's golfing buddy who is in charge of all of these sensitive negotiations. And I'll remind you just on Ukraine that the Ukrainian negotiation that is being done without really Ukraine at the table is being done by both Witkoff, to whom I've just referred, and also with the Russian business guy. He's not even a vice premier or whatever. He's not even a governmental functionary per se. He handles investments and the business side of the Russian empire. So Witkoff, the business guy who's handling stuff for Trump, is talking to the Russian business guy. If ever there was the definition of an oligarchical meeting, it's that one. It is the oligarchs running the world. There you have it in the navigating of the Ukraine-Russia situation. But I think now Ukraine relevant from the drone standpoint. We touched on that a bit earlier. Haven't heard much about Epstein lately. Trump knows how to redirect, says Western Florida. Yeah, that's
Big shout
true.
out.
This war certainly has an additional component, which is to take our gaze off of that. Super sticker from Michelle Hernandez. $5 super sticker. What up,
Big
Michelle
shout out.
Hernandez?
Did you say
Yeah.
Michelle? I say Michael.
Oh, I thought it was Michelle. I can't see it. My screen is so small.
I think that's Michael Hernandez.
I think
Michael.
it is. Michael,
Thank you.
apologies
Girl, you just
for
woo.
calling you Michelle. Yeah. I am, I'm sorry, I guess is what I want to say. I'm, my bad, I'm sorry.
My bad. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Did you really
Special-
just do that?
I know. I felt a little embarrassed by
We
it.
could try ignoring it, sir.
All right, well, special request, Mark, would you use your cool Hollywood voice to do a fake movie trailer for Epic Fury, a movie starring Pete Hegseth as God of War? Yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine? I mean,
Yes,
it is,
sadly.
on some level, it's a movie to these guys. It is. It's a media event. There's a performative theatrical aspect to it all, and it's objectionable in the extreme. It really is. So, no, I will not do a voice.
And now, your comments.
I'm doing the comments, Albert. All right. You're 100% right, says Underdog. Yes, I am 100% right. I don't know what you're referring to, but I am a full 100%. That is the top percentage. 100. And I will take credit. The Jimmy Dore Show says, with $10. Do you want to do dinner tonight? Beverly Hills, we've got reservations for 6:45. P.S. Israel is dictating this war to Trump and Hegseth, not the other way around. Oh, yeah. Well, I think that there's no question that Israel is taking the lead on this. I'd say Israel and the Saudis are oddly a crew with a lot of leverage that has been underreported. But there's no question Israel's head of the parade. But dinner tonight I cannot do. I am sorry. I'm very, very popular. I don't think people realize, Kim, how popular I am.
Do you know who I am?
Not some guy
kind of a
who's
big deal.
What are you doing on a Thursday night if not?
Which one are you use, Mark Thompson?
Exactly. I'm sorry. I mean, I wish I was available.
Get nothing.
Seriously, the U.S. Just dumped $20 million in Don Jr.'s drone company, and we still need Ukraine tech? Yeah, shaking my head. Yeah, that's a big story. We reported it here. Don Jr. set up a drone company, and when I say set it up, I mean he set it up Kristi Noem style, where you set it up, and a couple of months later, if that long, you get a huge government contract. That's exactly what's happened. And I guess they're not cranking them out fast enough because we need more drones, apparently. What's that, Kim?
In the Kristi Noem testimony, they asked her about a contract awarded to a company that was set up 8 days before the contract was signed. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the Noem dance.
Yes.
And the non-bid government contracts, the no-bid government contracts that are awarded to Trump's family. I mean, this is a grift unlike anything else. And I get it. Washington has always been, and the U.S. government has always been corrupt. The money in politics is in itself a kind of corruption that has been sanctioned. But you're seeing the true way in which you can ransack the Treasury in a way that has never been seen in the history of the nation under this regime. Ren saying they're making more drones 24/7 as we speak. They will have an infinite supply. Well, I mean, I guess there's always an infinite supply of these destructive weapons, but they are talking as though they have to fire a flare. They need more. Super sticker from Blue Spark. Thanks for the 10 spot, Blue Spark. You're great.
Big shout out.
Appreciate you. The missing Epstein files. Who would have guessed, says Cindy. Over $200 million in taxpayer money for ads instead of SNAP or ACA. So wasteful. Love David Katz. Thanks for the great show. Thank you, Cindy.
Big shout
and you're
out.
right, of course. I mean, the true abomination of the bleeding out that is going on with money dedicated to the Pentagon. Now they want another, what, $50 billion they're talking about as a supplemental package. They already get close to $1 trillion. This is an absolute grotesque grift that goes on across the Potomac River from the White House. And yet those Elon Musk teenagers who went through under the guise of improving government efficiency under Doge, they didn't touch the Pentagon. So now the Pentagon blasts off all of your money. And again, in a grift that's associated with paying off defense contractors, a lot of that money never leaves the Beltway. And the reality is that they want an additional appropriations now to supplement this war effort. But what you're talking about is the other grift, which is going on at the Department of Homeland Security under Kristi Noem. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And meantime, we don't have money for healthcare, for education, for SNAP. It's an outrage. In a country with such wealth, we really ignore the safety net, which is vital for so many Americans, particularly given the gulf between those who have money and those who don't, the growing gulf. Many, if not most, MAGA Americans are fine with this. Heck, they're even fine with Trump ripping them off personally, says Crusher Joe. Yeah, I think MAGA is full of a lot of different factions now. I can't even tell. I know people, I don't know if they were full on MAGA, but they voted for Trump because they thought he was a peace president was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. There's nothing about him. I get it. Every candidate for president says, I want to end wars. No candidates going, you know what we got to do? Got to go over to the Middle East and kick some ass. Nobody says that. They don't want to end the war in Ukraine, but it was just absurd. I'll end it in the first hour. I may not even be inaugurated, and I'll have it all wrapped up. And by calling out the forever wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc., by calling out the lunacy of that, somehow you come off as a peacenik, as a peace president or a peace candidate. A lot of people bought into that, and they must feel deceived now. I mean, to me, it was a clunky con. Everything about Trump is a clunky con. Some things are so slick. Some things are they rep so sincere. Nothing about Trump is like that. And nothing about his administration is like that. Look at the people he's appointed. Pete Hegseth. Is there anything about Pete Hegseth that strikes you as competent? That strikes you as thoughtful, as reflective? That he be the one you'd want in their planning? I mean, look at their history. These guys can't run anything. Hegseth thrown off of charities he ran the charities into the side of a mountain, couldn't administer these charities. They voted him off. The board voted him out. Trump, who ran a flim-flam university, had to settle for $25 million. I mean, these are just a couple of examples. They're limitless examples. I could sit here hour after hour talking about this stuff. And yet people are sucked in because we live in the land of media and rhetoric, and a media also, I might say, that, just grabs a little soundbite and a little mainstream package and likes the horse race. Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. Trump went on Rogan. She didn't. I mean, again, she may be a flawed candidate. I don't know. This isn't really about that, but it's really about the way in which messaging can rule the day. And a good, strong message can win the day. The stock market today, Dow drops 1.6%. Oil pushes above $80. Yeah, this is from Dillette. Stock market just sunk. Yeah, this is what's going to happen. I mean, I think, I can get, and I will get next week, some people on who can deal with the economics of war. War, again, is good for some things. It's bad for others. Right? I mean, but I think in the short term, what is happening most certainly in the complete stoppage of oil passage through the Strait of Hormuz is you're going to see oil prices just continue up. They have to. It's simple supply and demand. But I also think there are going to be some, ripple effects through the world economies. That's just also a fact of this situation in the Middle East. This is not a wealthy nation. It's a con job controlled by 10%, says Rein. Yeah, I guess when I say wealthy nation, first of all, I'd suggest to you the standard of living in the U.S. is higher than many. So when I say a wealthy nation, I think it depends on how you evaluate it. I mean, I agree that, obviously America's debt, and you could talk about sort of how fiscally irresponsible America has been. Of course, that kind of is the way like some Beverly Hills rich kid is blasting through town on his Ferrari and running up mom and dad's credit card. That might be more of what the American economy is when I say a rich nation. But what I'm suggesting is you're ready to go into big debt to pay for a Pentagon budget that's approaching $1 trillion or whatever it is. And you're ready to fund a bunch of programs for ICE and Customs and Borders and all these things that are associated with law enforcement and this perverse notion of immigration enforcement. And yet you're orphaning programs like SNAP and healthcare. So that's what when I say a rich nation, I'm saying the dedication of tremendous amounts of money is focused in the wrong places. So Jimmy Dore voted for Trump because he felt he was a peace president, says the last angry man. Well, I mean, then he was one more sucked in, I thought it was a clunky con, didn't believe it at all. But I mean, again, also, I think people are desperate for change. I don't know. That's what you get when you open the top shirt button, a swarm of offers. I'm supposed to have it like this, but it looks too. Maybe I could have it. I should have had it like this. Though.
No,
Right now,
it's
it's
good.
mating season,
You're
and they're
very
hungry.
I don't know. I'll go out with the second button up. But thank you all for being here. We've got a big show tomorrow. Of course, Mo Kelly, I think, will be here tomorrow for me. But we also have a big weekend conversation with Chris Armitage, and he's very, speaking of healthcare, he's got a plan really for change. And when he talks about change, he has really a guidebook for change. That'll be dropping on the weekend. Do subscribe. You'll get notices whenever we drop a new video if you hit the notification bell. Trump promised cheaper eggs. How could the MAGAs pass that up? It's true. Well, he sold the right thing, and I guess in the right way, and America might like a strong man. I mean, that's what we're coming around to. Some sad facts are now in evidence.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Thanks, everybody. Till next time. Bye-bye.